This is a tutorial on how to create a marking menu within Maya. Pretty much can do this with any Maya, no matter how old it is. I remember doing this back in 2008 version. But basically, the marking menus are, if you're pretty familiar with Maya, when you hold down spacebar, you get a marking menu, or if you're doing certain things like, for instance, shift and right click, and like I'm creating a polygon, and just holding down right mouse button, and I get the standard polygon edit marking menu. Marking menus are pretty handy. I use them quite frequently, and came up with some general tools that I use. So I wanted a marking menu to make it easier instead of having to go, into the toolbar up here, or using a shelf with certain commands and trying to find it within here, and depending on what they were. So what I did was I just created my own. Alright, so basically, just to give you an idea, with a marking menu that I came up with, basically set it to Alt A and then left click, and this is your your normal basic command. So freeze transforms on object, delete history, center pivot, and then these are just a few more transforms that I use quite frankly that I wanted to add. So I'm gonna have one where I drop the pivot to the base of the object, reset pivot, which will reset its values in world space, so right here, and then reset object, which will bring it back to 0, 0, 0, and obviously, and puts those at their correct value. So that's just something that I find quite handy, that I use quite often for these, especially with model creation, history, pivot, and freeze transforms. So to create a marking menu, you go to Window, Settings and Preferences, and then Marking Menu Editor. And basically in here, this is how you would set up your marking menu. These first 5 right here are your standard default Maya marking menus, and pretty much that's just when you hold down spacebar. So you get the normal ones. So like Hotbox North, that's your panel layouts there. If I want different ones, which are same thing that's over here, but this makes it a little easier, and they're right there. To the south, there's your panel types, graph editor, outliner, some common ones, hyper shade. Basically what's here. So if I go east, sorry about that. If I go east, then I get the all these panel visibilities, so I can turn shelves on, off, your helpline. So if you want to have more space within, using viewport, and you can turn all these off and hide them. It makes it a little bit more accessible for this. Now, for instance, toolbox, let's go attribute editor, which I have open right there. So if I go back over here, I can go back to that and bring that back. Simple things like that, turn things on and off really easily. So anyways, to create a marking menu, it's really simple. Just go to Create Marking Menu, and this will bring up this box, which is basically where I can add my commands in here. Gives you a little help info right here, but basically you can have a command from your script editor. So if you find a script online, or you create your own script, and you can just basically drop and drag it in here, or you can drag them from your shelf. So right here I have a shelf, and I can simply just drag these in here one by one, give a little info for it. I can do the let's say I wanted these, so I have my freeze transform, center pivot, history, edit menu. You can right click on it, so that'll give you the right there. And some of them, like when you're creating these objects, you can even set option box if you want, so that way if you pull this command but you want the options for it, so you don't want delete all history, you just want to delete some, you can add your options to that, and check boxes, radio buttons, those sort of things. You can left mouse click down here and actually view how these will work, and make sure your layout is how you want it. That's pretty self-explanatory there. So menu name, and I will just name this temp marking menu, and hit save, and I'll throw it in here. That's one I created earlier, kind of the same thing, but we'll delete that one just to get that. Yeah, we don't want to create a backup for that. These are the ones I created that I showed you earlier. Temp marking menu, and in order to use this, because this is not accessible right now, this is how we use our marking menu. We can either set up a hotbox commands for it, or we can make a hotkey editor. Use a hotkey editor and make a hotkey for it. If you use hotbox, then you have to basically define your region and your keys. But since these are set to those buttons, you will lose one of these windows. So just keep that in mind. You can turn these off and use them here. So I could say, hotbox center and left mouse, but then I'll lose the command for this one. So that's just something to keep in mind. For these, I like to use the hotkey editor because then I can assign my own keys that are more easily accessible on the keyboard. So we'll go to that. We'll say set hotkey editor. So it basically tells us that's where we can define this marking menu. So we'll hit apply settings and close. And now what you need to do is go to settings and preferences and hotkey editor. And under here, if you go down, you'll find user marking menus. And as you see in here, here's this temp marking menu that we created. Now there's two of them, which is basically the press and release. So it'll set up a command that you will hold the hotkeys that you assigned down and left click, and that'll bring up your marking menu. And when you release that, then it'll trigger this hotkey, which will disengage the marking menu, and it'll disappear. So it's just basically a toggle. So I had set this one up before, but basically what you can do is define the modifier for it, whether you want to use Control Alt or Shift, and Shift will actually be with the key name, so it'll be a capital A, and if you don't hold Shift, then it'll be a lowercase a. So for this one, I did Control A and W for window, and if I query that, you can see Control A W is assigned to nothing, so I know I won't overwrite another command for that. Like Control S is save, just to give you an idea. So basically I know that with Control AW and left click in the viewport, it will toggle that marking menu on for me now. So we'll go ahead and assign this, and of course in order for it to work correctly we have to assign the release key, so it'll automatically assign that one for us. So if you press Control Alt W and left mouse button, it'll fire this one off, and if we release, it'll fire this one off. So just save that, close, and now if I hold down Control Alt W and left click, and that did not want to work for that, so let's go see why. Go back down to user marking menus, Control Alt W, assign that. Temp marking menu for source statement. Interesting. Okay, so let's go back to the menu editor and make sure. And that's in there. Interesting. Somehow I lost my my commands in here. So let me save that. Let's try that again. Control Alt W and left click, and there we go. So then there's that marking menu I created. Go back in here. We'll edit this again, and I will just drag in the other ones, just so you can see them all in there. And then Control Alt W, left click, and so there's a sphere and center pivot I added. So basically that's really it. Pretty simple. If you do have any questions or comments or anything, just feel free, and hopefully I can do some more if you have any suggestions for some other little tips or tutorials I can see. Just leave them in the comments. Thank you.